Coming up on this episode of So Now I've Got Breast Cancer.
I couldn't be near my kids. I couldn't be near my husband. I didn't want to be near anyone. I just isolated myself for 2 weeks because I couldn't cope. Emotionally, I was overwhelmed. And I was literally like just shutting myself off in my bedroom. Just couldn't deal with the next 10 minutes. It was just horrendous.
Topless marathon runner Louise Butcher on how she learned to accept her flat chest after a double mastectomy.
And I thought, well, the run is showing resilience, it's showing strength and power. Let's take my top off and show the scars, which is kind of like the pity of, oh, this woman's got no boobs. Oh, so everyone's like, don't really know what I'm seeing here because the pity's sort of running around and I can't run a marathon. So it's kind of like challenging that whole sort of perception of what pity is, because how can you pity someone who's running a marathon? That was kind of my argument.
This is So Now I've Got Breast Cancer, the podcast for anyone who's just been diagnosed. Today's guest, breast cancer thriver Louise Butcher, is rather special. She's created a storm on the news and social media as the topless runner. When she flaunts her flat chest on her marathons, she's raising awareness about what it can mean to be flat and how your breasts don't need to define you. Welcome to the show.
Hiya, Liz. Thanks for having me on. Oh my God, this is brilliant.
Oh, I can't wait to talk to you. But I wanted to go back before breast cancer because you were really worried about your health, weren't you? You kind of felt that you weren't living. Is that right?
Yeah, so I had health anxiety and I was constantly in this circle of worrying about I was going to get some disease or I was going to die of something. So it was pretty bad most days, and there was kind of like ups and downs with it. So some months it'd be really bad, and then other times it'd be easier to manage. But yeah, it was just I can't explain it because I think you have to be in it, and when I'm not in it, it's hard to explain. But it's literally like you are obsessed with your health. So everything else is like over there and it's like an addiction. So everybody else and everything else is a distraction. That's what it's like.
I can't imagine. But it did lead to you getting a private mammogram. How old were you when you had it done?
So I was 47 in that March because I went and had that done. But I'd had some counselling for the health anxiety, so it was on an even keel, and I was training for the virtual at that time. So I kind of was managing it. It wasn't sort of ruining my life at that point. But I think the mammogram was kind of like a peace of mind. Well, I just want to check my breasts are all right, because as we know, you don't get called up until a certain age. So yeah, I went for that, and it came back clear.
Great. And then what happened?
And then because it was clear, I had a really good self-check because I was always a bit worried about self-checking. So it's kind of like I did self-check, but I don't think I did it well enough. So I was like, well, I haven't got breast cancer, so I'm just going to delve right in there. And I did it in the shower and I just really went for it. And I found a really small sort of thickening. It wasn't even like a lump. It was like something that was attached to something else. But even then I wasn't worried because I'd had this clear mammogram. But I went to the doctors anyway, just to make sure, because it could have been something that needed removing. And she even said, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. But because of my health anxiety history, she said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you to the breast clinic. And I went to the breast clinic.
Thank goodness she did.
Yeah.
And you ended up having the ultrasounds and biopsies. And I think for me, one of the worst parts was waiting for the results.
Yes.
How did you find it?
The worst part, definitely. It was because I was in this limbo of not knowing which path I was going on. I couldn't be near my kids. I couldn't be near my husband. I didn't want to be near anyone. I just isolated myself for 2 weeks. It was over Easter, I remember. And it was the Easter holidays. So I felt so bad on my kids because I was just palming them off on my friends because I couldn't cope emotionally. I was overwhelmed, and I was literally like just shutting myself off in my bedroom. Just couldn't deal with the next 10 minutes. It was just horrendous.
And you had to wait an extra week, didn't you, over the Easter holiday, because that's when our clinic shut down, which makes it even worse. What did help? Was it looking at nature? Was it running? Was it exercise? What got you through?
It was running and exercise because I was training for the virtual. So it was kind of like that was a focus.
Sorry, just wanted to interrupt you there. For anyone listening who doesn't know what the virtual is, can you explain it?
It's the London Marathon, but you can do it virtually. So you do it, because I think some people think virtual is you don't do it, but you do actually run. But you get like an app which tracks you. And you
Got
do it
you.
on the day of the London Marathon, and it tracks you along your route, and then you get your medal through the post. So it's still the same, but you're just doing it on your own, really. So it's actually quite difficult. But yeah, so I was training for that, and that was kind of like my focus, which kept me going, really. That because I could go off and escape everything, and I didn't need to be
Yeah.
near other people, because the other people made me feel worse. In a sense, it was like I
Yeah.
felt guilty.
They don't get what you're going through, do
They
they?
don't. And also because when I told people, it became real. And also then their life became different because of something that was happening to me, like worse in a sense. Like I remember my parents, it just ruined them. And then I felt bad. And then, it was just that. And I couldn't be near that because I had enough with my own emotions without worrying about theirs. And I remember I rang my sister up and she burst into tears, and she was like, "Oh, and I was just like, I can't deal with this. I'm dealing with my own. I can't deal with yours."
Yeah. And were you worrying about other kind of health problems? And if I've got breast cancer, maybe I have this and this and this, or did it help kind of just focus you on the present, I guess?
It focused me on the breast cancer, but at that point, it was pretty much like I thought, oh, it's bound to have spread. Because I was always worst case scenario anyway. So I was like, oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Can't just be in my breast. It's all over the place. And I remember I'd had a lot of stomach problems for 6 months before I got diagnosed because I'd gone on HRT. So as soon as I got breast cancer, I've got stomach cancer. It's gone to my stomach. Oh, and I'd had like a lot of reflux. Oh, it's in my esophagus. Oh, it's everywhere. So yeah, I think that's probably like quite a normal reaction, isn't it? That.
Yeah. I think a lot of us imagine the
Yeah.
worst. Now, can you tell the listeners what treatment you ended up having? What were you recommended?
So I had, first of all, I had the left side mastectomy, which had the cancer in, and they wouldn't take off the right side because they don't take off a healthy breast in the NHS, which I can totally understand. But my argument was if it's lobular and it's not showing very well on scans, which it wasn't, even on an MRI, it showed a tiny amount. It actually showed less than the ultrasound. I said, well, how do you know it's not in there? That was another worry. And also,
I've had that.
Yeah, I couldn't cope with one. I just didn't understand how one is better than none. And I know it was recommended he had reconstruction, which I didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, at least if I've not got any, it's kind of like going back to before I had them, like when you're a child, even though you haven't got the nipples. But with one, when have I ever had one? I can't. And so I constantly advocated to have that one off. And eventually I got it off because I had to go back into the left side to get clearer margins. So she said, we'll take that off at the same time.
So I think it's really interesting. Women, we're meant to be symmetrical. We have two of everything. You do look very odd in the mirror. And I remember when I was training, very few women were having reconstructions, and we were told to push reconstructions because we can do it. But I didn't realize how much of an impact it can be in someone's life. And a lot of women are just happy being flat, and it's not there. But I want to play. I want to do it. And I wonder whether I was pushing women to have a reconstruction when they didn't really want it. Did you feel that pressure?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I in the surgeon's office, and my surgeon was a woman, and it wasn't her opinion. It was from the research. So it was from the research that passed.
Yeah.
And she said, this was when I was only having the left side off. She said, I do recommend that you have reconstruction. And I said, why? And she said, because it will have a negative impact on your mental health. And at that point, obviously, I'd just got the cancer, the wanting to live. I didn't really have time to start thinking about that. So I thought, well, this lady knows what she's talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. She knows this research. She's done all these operations. So I actually said yes in the office, even though I knew gut-wrenchingly that it was the wrong decision. I said, yes, I'll have reconstruction. And then as soon as I left the office, I knew it was the wrong choice, and I knew. And when I got home, I rang up, and my appointment had been filled for that surgery. And then I felt even more guilty because I thought I didn't even want it. And now I had to wait another 2 weeks for surgery, and it could be spreading. Oh my God. And I felt such guilt that I'd put vanity, even though I didn't even want it. And I don't even know why, over, oh my God, I could get it out and it could be spreading. Oh, that was horrendous as well.
It's really hard, isn't it? And I think a lot of women used to ask me to have their healthy breast removed, and the main reason is to stop it coming back in the future. But it doesn't work like that. It just stops you getting a cancer in that breast. And I really think we should do more for symmetry. People want to be flat. I've thought about having my other breast removed, but I can't be asked to have another operation. But I think it's just changing that perception. And I think if you haven't had breast cancer, you can't imagine being flat.
No, of course you can't.
But when you are that person, you suddenly think, well, actually, this is what I want. It's a much quicker recovery as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I recovered. I was running that virtual 6.5 weeks later. So it's a really quick recovery. I think obviously the exercise helped me recover quickly with the scars. But yeah, and that's another reason I wanted to stay flat, because I just didn't, when they explained the surgeries to me, because I think a lot of people think it's a boob job and it's quick, and it's not. It's really invasive. And when she explained the two types, they both sounded to me quite horrendous. And I'd been through enough, and I didn't want to go through that for the sake of putting something there for other people, because I didn't want it. I'd lost my boobs. I certainly didn't want implants, and I didn't want a big operation to have the fat put there. So yeah, I knew it was for other people that I was doing it, and that didn't sit right with me. So yeah, it was, and also because I was running, the running obviously is much better when you haven't got boobs. So that was another good point.
Yeah. Can I ask, do you look at your scars the same? Do you accept the cancer side as well as you accept the normal side?
Yeah, I do look at them the same. It's funny because I remember when I had the one breast still, I couldn't look at the breast, but I could look at the scar really easily. When I was stood in the shower, I could not look at that boob. I could not. It made me feel so, well, all kinds of emotions, like loss, seeing what I'd lost, worried about the cancer being in there. It reminded me of what I'd been through, whereas now I look at both scars, it's actually like, it's such an empowering feeling, because I think it was the choice because obviously with cancer, you get all your choices get taken away, and the control gets taken away. And I know I controlled a lot of this, because I controlled to get this off, and I controlled the fact I wanted to stay flat. And I think that's where the empowerment comes from, is that you've taken back some control. So I think I look at my scars the same on both sides, because yeah, I've never been asked that question, Liz. That's a really interesting question, but no, I've never looked at them in a different way.
And how long did it take you to accept the way you look? Because for me, I wouldn't look at myself naked for about 6 months.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let my husband see me naked. I just hated the scar. It takes time, doesn't it?
It does. And it is a grieving process. It is actually grief. Because I remember I had days where my emotions were anger, sadness, pity, anger, all these things. And they just kept going up and down. And I remember having a conversation with my sister, and she said, it's because you're grieving. That's grief. And it came in waves. And then one day, and I could not stay on one level. And that was I would have said about 6 months. I could look at my scars in the mirror, but the whole grief of that person I was with breasts to the person I was without was about 6 months. Yeah, and that definitely takes time.
It does. Do you get cleavage envy?
Do you know what? I never liked cleavage. I never liked it. So do you remember there's a model that literally she's very flat with breasts, but flat.
Yeah.
And I used to have envy of her. I used to like a lot of the models when they were super thin. Not that I want to be super thin, but when they had hardly any chest, they used to have like where they could wear clothes and they showed like a cleavage that wasn't actually there. Now I've got that. I actually liked that. And I think I wore for the Woman of the Year like this thing which comes down and it shows that. And I never liked cleavage.
Yeah.
And I used to have quite big boobs at one point. I never liked it. So no, I don't.
You see, I used to look at women on the tube and say they've had implants, they haven't. But now I go, oh, that's a really pretty cleavage. I miss mine.
Do you?
Even though it was Wonder Bra enhanced.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I just think it was that way of flirting and feeling feminine and putting on a low-cut top with your boobs out. That was my way of kind of feeling sexy. And now it's like, yeah, it's not going to happen. And I quite like being able to wear it. You like the low-cut stuff. You're not worrying about your bra showing, but there's a bit of that. And in the summer, bikinis and swimsuits and things, I find that really, really hard.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Do you find it hard on holiday, or are you just
No, I don't.
swan around bikini bottoms and don't care?
I love the fact that I don't have boobs. I'm not sure if I'm a bit weird, because I mean, obviously this has been a process.
Yes.
At the beginning, this wasn't me going, oh yeah, I love the fact I'm my boobs off. It wasn't like that. But obviously now I think the reason I feel the way I do is because of what I do and how I've ran topless and shown how I've accepted my body, in a way has given me like it's really hard to explain, but more femininity because of owning it, I think. Because even when I had boobs, there were certain points in my life where I was confident, but I've got to admit the last 10 years before I got cancer, I wasn't. My boobs have sagged a bit. I'd kind of thought I was over the hill. I think you get to 40, 50 and everyone says, oh, you're over the hill. Well, you know, you listen to all that. You're going through the menopause. You're going to be totally invisible. So I'd kind of given up in a way. I never used to kind of wash my hair much. I didn't put makeup on. I didn't dress nice. So I would have said that I'd kind of lost all confidence, and I had breasts. So I'd lost my femininity in that sense, in that I didn't really care. And then when I started caring again and doing what I do, that all came back and the confidence came back. So the femininity for me is the confidence, which is, yeah. So the breast, not having the breast has given me that back, which is very, you wouldn't be able to put that down in theory, would you?
No, but I love that. And I think it's really true. It's like you realize that your breasts don't define you. They don't make you a woman. They're just something that sits on your chest wall. So I wondered how you found the support to cope as someone who's gone flat. I know when I was diagnosed back in 2015, Instagram didn't really exist. I found a couple of people on Twitter. Has there been much support on social media where you can talk to other women and actually know you're not alone?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of support, actually. There's quite a few flat groups. There's flat friends on Facebook. There's a couple that in America as well, who they're a bit ahead of us with the flat. They're kind of like really owning it over there. So there's a few groups on there. I've forgotten what they're called, but if you just put flat in, they'll come up.
We'll find it for the show notes. Yeah.
But there is quite a lot of support, more than you'd think, actually. And I think it's because people don't assume it's there, but if you search for it, it is. And they're brilliant. I mean, I'm friends with most of those people. And it's lovely as well to connect with them all around the world. But yeah, America's really ahead, I think. They've got quite big groups of flat women doing amazing things in New York.
Now, you mentioned topless running, Louise, and I want to know how, why. When did you start running? When did you first decide to run topless in the public?
Yeah, that was around about a year after I'd been diagnosed. So I was fed up of all the negativity surrounding flat closure surgery and not having the reconstruction. And I felt there wasn't a need to have shame and stigma around it because it just didn't sit right. And I remember when I ran my first marathon after my mastectomy, weeks after, the sort of empowerment I got from that. And I had a lot of support. But I think a lot of the support came from pity. And that sounds awful, doesn't it? Oh, that she's had cancer, she's running a marathon. Oh, and it comes from this lovely place of care, but there is a sense of pity there. And I thought, oh, that's just, and it used to really annoy me. I just don't like pity. I don't sit well with it. And it spurs me on. And I'd done a lot of research with a lot of women who felt that shame. So when I came around to my second marathon, because I got addicted to it by then, I thought, what can I do to sort of reduce that pity as well as the running? And I thought, well, the running's showing resilience, it's showing strength and power. Let's take my top off and show the scars, which is kind of like the pity of, oh, this woman's got no boobs, but twine them together in the sense of the strength and the resilience and this and this all. So everyone's like, don't really know what I'm seeing here, because the pity's sort of running around and I can't run a marathon. So it's kind of like challenging that whole sort of perception of what pity is. Because how can you pity someone who's running a marathon? That was kind of my argument. But then you're also confused because you're seeing a lady who's lost a breast to cancer. So it was a bit like, whoa, to make people think and stop. And they did. And that's kind of what it's done. And that was what I wanted, really. That was the whole point.
And it's really worked, hasn't it? I mean, you've been all over the media. And I think it is so empowering to see, you promote the benefit of exercise, which can reduce the risk of recurrence. And I'm sure we can talk about this, how good it is for your mental health. But to say this is normal, this is what women look like, and it's okay, and you don't need to be ashamed, and you don't need to wear the prosthetics if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of people reaching out to you saying thank you?
Yeah. Oh, hundreds. I mean, all sorts of different reasons as well, and men, because obviously men are struggling with their wives who've got breast cancer or their mothers, and then they reach out to me as well. And then ladies reach out to me who've gone for mammograms because they've started following me. But just, I think the most messages are from reducing that stigma, and they're feeling like, well, why should I feel ashamed of it? Because she's not, and she's running around, and just making it more sort of prevalent in society as well. I think it's like, I always felt the anxiety came from the hidden. And once it's not hidden, it's kind of going, well, you can't have shame when you're kind of going, well, this is how I am, because the shame's gone, isn't it? Shame's usually from hiding things. So that's thought it's got to be done, because it's just not fair, really, is it?
No, it's not. And it's like, if you're going to talk about me, well, I'm talking about myself. But you must have attracted some hate mail, some people who think you shouldn't be doing it. How hard was that?
Not in the slightest bit hard, because I knew when I did it that would happen. And that was also the point.
Okay.
Because it actually shows, written down, the shame and the stigma. So it's kind of like a research project. Yeah. So on my Facebook page now, it's all there. If anyone ever wants to do a PhD or get the research, you can see the shame and stigma there, because you've got people saying you need to cover up, you're a woman, we don't want to see that. There's a lot more hurtful comments. They don't hurt me, but they're hurtful. But those are the kind of things I get. Oh, well, you've made your point now. Well, it's not a point. There's no point. The point isn't there. It's about showing that this is me, and I don't need to cover up if I don't want to. Men don't. I don't have to. I've got no boobs. So it's all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's totally what I wanted to do. I wanted to open all that up.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I just think it's so empowering to see people like you. And I wish I'd seen women like you when I was treating people with breast cancer, to understand it's okay to be flat, and it is empowering, and you can do this, and you can love your scars. Now, I know you've got tattoos. Have you ever thought about getting a tattoo over the front, or do you want to keep it as it is so it's obvious?
Yeah, I want to keep it as it is. I think as well, it is really tempting, because some lovely tattoos I've seen on women, but I always thought that with what I do and my messages, it would still feel like I was covering it or making it prettier. And to me, the scars are amazing, because they saved my life. They show my strength and how I've got through a disease. So I felt if I sort of put a lovely tattoo there, I was still kind of going, but I can make them look prettier. Because I really love the way they look. I mean, I don't go, to be honest, it's really funny. I don't really think about it anymore. It's not something I think about. Like, if you sort of like, you're a bit worried about your chin if you're getting older, or some people, I don't actually worry about my superficial look anymore like I used to, because of what I know the body's capable of. And I think also it's because I do so much exercise, and I know about, or I know so much more about muscles, and it's kind of that stuff I'm working on rather than my physical appearance, so that I can have a better life as I get older. It's funny, isn't it? It's just changed the whole mindset of what is important about my body.
No, I get it. I used to be terrified of aging. I'm 23 as a junior doctor buying anti-aging creams, but now, having had cancer, it's a privilege to get old. And I'm proud of my chin hairs and actually the wrinkles and things heading south for winter, because it means I'm still here. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, I hate running. How did you get into running? How do you learn to love running? Because, and this is really important, it's a great exercise for people who've had breast cancer, because it's bone strengthening as well as the cardio. And we know our bones can weaken as we get older. How do I get into it, Louise?
Well, it's really hard to get other people into it. You kind of got to want to do it. But I did it because my mental health was so bad. And I remember I used to go into fight or flight a lot and get panic attacks. And I used to just run off. I felt safe outside. I couldn't be indoors because it was so overwhelming. So I used to run off. And I remember I'd run off, this was before the cancer diagnosis, and I'd feel better. So I started running as a way to trick my mind into thinking, well, if I'm running, I'm not ill and there's nothing wrong with me. And then, I remember I used to go for runs and worry that I was going to have a heart attack, because I was thinking my health anxiety was that bad. So I thought, oh my God, my blood pressure be so high. I used to be addicted to putting the blood pressure machine on. I used to do that for hours on end. So I thought, well, if I'm running, my blood pressure can't be high, because I wouldn't be able to run. So it was kind of like that. So that's how it started. And then as I got more confident with the running, I realized, well, actually, I'm not that, there can't be anything majorly wrong with me because I'm able to run like a mile or 2 miles. And then it just became something that I needed to do rather than wanted to do. It's like a medication, really. And that's how I got into it. But that was the irony, because I was running and that's when I got diagnosed. So it was just so bizarre.
Do you find it's a way of getting out of your head, kind of your mindfulness, having been through cancer? Does running have the same mental benefit now?
Yeah, totally. I think being outside for me, I think when I was diagnosed, it was really hard to explain to people who hadn't been through it. But I always was seeking reassurance and safety in my life. That was where the health anxiety came in. Constant reassurance from the doctor that I was all right. Constant, am I safe? And it was always, and if I'd get it for about 5 minutes and then I'd need it again. It was like an addiction.
Yeah.
And then the cancer made me realize no matter how much you seek that, it isn't there. There's no reassurance and there's no safety. And if you can live with that and you can live alongside that, you're going to live. So in my darkest sort of days, when I didn't really know if it spread or anything like that, that was kind of like when I realized that it was more about being connected to the environment and outside and empowering people than it was about being an individual. Being an individual was really scary because I felt if I died, no one's coming with me. And it was literally like this moment where I just realized what life was about. And that's kind of why I went on this journey, because I thought, at least now, and this sounds really weird, if I die now, my energy is still out there. And I think a lot of people who are diagnosed go into that mindset. I've not really died, have I? Because the energy that I've done and connected with people and changed people's mindsets is still there. So that was the only reassurance I got. So that's kind of like how I ended up doing what I'm doing, really. It's just so much more my purpose.
It's like you're leaving a legacy. And I think cancer often gives people a purpose. You do something for the greater good because it's not all about you. Yeah. And it can be so rewarding to see how something so traumatic, which destroyed you for those 2 weeks and you were waiting, can go on to positively change the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Seeing you with Bryony Gordon doing the Vitality 10K in London in your underwear, you in your pants, like, oh my God, these are women running with a cellulite and their thighs flapping and they don't care. This is amazing. We should all be doing it. And it's just joyful to see women being women.
Yeah, that was amazing, that run. And I think also as well, what cancer taught me was the not worrying about judgment, because it made me realize really it doesn't matter. And that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't gone through it. But it just made me realize how it traps you into this small little world that you live in. And everyone is. I was always worried about what people thought about me. And I think that's why I was never my authentic self, trying to fit in. And it just made me this prisoner of myself, really. And then I think that's a lot of the reason why I got so sick with anxiety and health anxiety. I was trying to be something I wasn't. So when the cancer came along, it made me realize that was just all nonsense. And then since then, and that's why I don't worry about what people say about me online, because if you don't actually care about the judgment, it does not affect me at all. And I think that's so freeing, because there's no way I could do what I do if I was worried about judgment. There's no way, because I knew when I did it, it would cause people to be a bit weird about it. So but it is freeing. So I don't think I've ever felt so free ever as I do now.
It's crazy, isn't it? And it's almost, you realise everyone is worrying about the size of their ass. No one's looking at you because we're all worried about our own. And although it's hard when people write comments online, they're strangers.
Yeah.
They don't mean anything to you. It's how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, it is.
You've talked about how your health anxiety has changed. Do you worry about your breast cancer coming back?
No. So if I was still the person I was before with health anxiety, not health anxiety, but if I was, haven't got that now, the cancer flipped that on its head. But if I was, and the reason that's gone is because I don't live in the future. I live in the now, and I have to. I know that it taught me that I cannot live any other way. Some people can do it. I can't do it. I've never managed it well, and so I do not live in the future. So there's no way I can think about it coming back. Because if I did, I'd go down that rabbit hole again. I'd just be back where I was. Fine, I'm not going there because it just ruined my life for a long time. So I Another thing that cancer taught me was how to live in the now, because I didn't have a choice. It was like that was the only way I could cope with those months that I was just in this place. So it actually taught me to do it, and now I can do it really well. So because it is hard to do living in the present. It's so hard, but I actually let everything go to do it. So my house is a mess. Sometimes my plans are all over the place, but that's how I feel happiest. Whereas before I'd been worried about that and I'd been sorting it all out. I don't. I'm just like, no, I have to live in the present because I know that's the only way I can cope.
I could not do that. I am someone worrying about what's going to happen. But I wonder, so you live in the now, but do you plan for the future? Like planning travel or races ahead? Do you assume you're going to be there, or do you just do things as they come or spontaneously?
So I'm quite an impulsive person. I was always impulsive, but the impulsivity got me in a lot of trouble over my life, and that obviously caused anxiety. But now I let the impulsivity work with me. So I will, I'll kind of, if I'm planning a race, so like I know I'm going to do the London Marathon in April, but it's not something I'll be thinking about until it happens. So it's kind of like I'll plan things, but whereas before I'd plan them and I'd be like, what ifs, and thinking about them and waiting for, so having an expectation of it, there'll be none of that. I will literally turn up that day and that will be it. There'll be no thought process. And I think sometimes that makes you happier because there's no expectation. So you're not really thinking about how it's going to be. It's just it's how it is. So yeah, because I have to plan to a point because I've got kids, but it's a different kind of way of thinking. You plan, but you don't think.
I love it's a complete transformation, isn't it?
It totally is. But it's the way that I work. It's the way that works for me. And I was always fighting against it for some really weird reason because, well, society probably and what people were saying or worrying about judgment maybe.
Yeah. Now, what do your kids think about mummy being topless on the telly?
It's kind of normal to them now because I've done it for 2.5 years. And when I started, Pollyanna was sort of five years old. So she was a bit like, this is normal. My son was about 11. So he did a lot of my little reels and my videos. So he was kind of involved in the beginning. So yeah, it's become quite normal. They don't really think anything of it. But that's another thing about anything, isn't it? If it goes on for a long enough time, you adapt and it becomes normalized.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If it's normalized to my children, it becomes normalized to society if people just see it all the time. It always works like that.
Yeah. It's a really important message to get across. And I think just change what the media think breast cancer looks like.
Yeah.
And it's not all pretty pink bras. This is the reality, and that's okay.
Yeah, of course it is. And the fact that it is okay as well, that's another reason I do what I do and I put it on social media is because when I was going through what I was going through, and obviously flat closed surgery is shown on pictures, but I couldn't see anybody living with that and showing it because I suppose why would they? Maybe I'm just a bit mad, but I wanted to see that. That would have helped a lot because I would have seen after post-cancer someone living in life, being happy and all that. So that's kind of why I do it, because I know that I wanted to see that and I didn't see it because it is horrendous and devastating. But if you come out of it, you can be a better person and you can be happy and you can live this amazing life. And actually, you can live a better life, which is kind of what I've done by the way that my mindset have changed. And I wanted to show that because I think a lot of cancers are shown in a sort of negative light. And I know there's a lot of negativity and there's reason for that. But also, I think if you give people hope, it can change the chemicals in their body as well, which also helps with kind of like reoccurrence. We all know that stress can affect the way that your body's dealing with your immune system. So I thought, let's just flip it around and show some hope rather than all the sort of pushing down. And yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do.
And I think we as surgeons need positive role models. So we don't think going flat is the worst possible case. It's just an option and showing that you can be happy and you can learn to live. So thank you for everything you do. So I wanted to ask before you go, any final words of wisdom for anyone listening who's really struggling to come to terms with their body and their life after breast cancer?
Yeah, what helped me was becoming something else, like evolving. So it was kind of like when I had breasts, I was this person. And if I'd have stayed that person, the same person without the breasts, I would have always looked back because I would have had a loss. And I knew I'd had a loss, but I could also become something better, evolve into something stronger, learn new things, started running marathons because I'd never run a marathon with boobs. So I would sort of recommend becoming something, not something else, but a stronger, better person than you were before. So you're not looking back, because when you look back, that's when you can't move forward. Don't look forward, but just try and live in the moment and become something better than you were when you had boobs. And that would be a way of stopping yourself constantly missing it or looking back at what you were. I think that would be my advice, because I know that worked for me. Might not work for everybody, but that really worked for me.
I think that's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Louise. I could have talked to you for hours, and I wish you all the best with the running races coming up.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Liz.
That was Louise Butcher, and you can find her social media handles in the show notes. Now, if you enjoyed listening to this episode of So Now I've Got Breast Cancer, please give us a 5-star rating. Share it with your friends and family. Share it online so we can help as many people as possible. I'm Dr. Liz O'Riordan. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. So Now I've Got Breast Cancer is produced by Birdline Media.